got it. This transmission is coming to you.
Waging war on corruption.
All right, you are go.
It's Alex Jones, coming to you live from the front lines of the info war.
You got it.
We're live. It is Sunday, the 19th day of June, 2011. The quickening is definitely here. And we have an extremely important broadcast lined up for you today. Undoubtedly, during the first hour, we will not have any time to take calls, but I do look forward to taking your calls in the second hour. We knew this was coming. We now have the EU and UN sanctions on the way to begin the pretext of the invasion of Syria now, not just Libya. We have the confirmed reports from inside Fort Hood and other major bases that U.S. military is going to be sending in heavy armor in late September, early October. And I've likened this to World War III. Now, after I released that video Friday, the special report I did, I realized I needed to shoot another video explaining to people, the general public, what World War III means. Because we have a pop culture idea of, if we go to war with the Russians, that's World War III and the end of the world. And I don't know what World War III will look like, but I know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. But I'm not talking about a thermonuclear World War III. I'm talking about a third world war. And you can look up different Encyclopedia Britannica, Wikipedia, other definitions. But when you look them up, it's a multi-region war with more than 3 countries involved that is prolonged with high numbers of dead. And if you don't call the last 9 years of Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Yemen, all these other countries, if you don't call that a multi-region war with high numbers of dead people and a lot of different countries involved, if you don't call it a World War III, what do you call it? And it just so happens that I was going from memory, but I wanted to make sure I was right, so I did a lot of research Friday night and Saturday to make sure my video was accurate. And it turns out it's completely accurate, except for one issue. The Pentagon calls the Cold War World War III. Oh, yeah, that's official. We're going to be going over that. And so I guess you'd call this World War IV, but for a popular understanding, if I said World War IV, folks wouldn't get it. And I even have George W. Bush, ABC News, and other reports here saying Bush likens war on terror to World War III. And that's what it is. It was a pretext for World War III or World War IV. It's a proxy war. It's a world war via proxies, as we predicted would happen and would be expanded in the Obama deception. So we're going to break down exactly what the globalists, what the Bilderberg Group plans to have come out of this today. And it's extremely important. Now, I'm not going to get to that first, though. I'm not going to get to that first. I want to get into the TSA and the fight against total federalization. That's really what this TSA situation is really all about. It's much bigger than just airports. And the fact that state legislatures in Texas had their genitals groped so hard that they were racked by it. They were groveling in pain. And they were told, you have now been punished. And then there's many cases confirming, even when they're caught on tape, when the federal goons tell you're being punished. That's why when I go through, if they get uppity, I start explaining, I know your boss is stage 9/11, and there's not the pleasure in it, so they don't usually abuse me because I take the pleasure away. I'm ready to be abused. I don't care. I'm good. I'm constitutional. I'm historically informed. I'm for liberty. I'm with the spirit of 1776, and I don't care what you do to me. I crossed over that river a long time ago. As far as I'm concerned, the coins have already been given to Charon. Okay, we're going to come right back on the other side of this break and get into all these huge developments. And I have a correction to make as well. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us on this Father's Day live worldwide transmission against tyranny and defense of liberty. I'm Alex Jones, your host. We're here every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, 5 to 7 Eastern, 2 to 4 Pacific, 3 to 5 Mountain. And then, of course, I come back live during the week, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., all times Central Standard. The websites are Infowars.com and prisonplanet.tv. Okay, let me do something here that I always attempt and almost always fail, because as I read each headline, I end up diving into the second or third. It's kind of like the old Tootsie Pop ad with the owl. He goes to the wise owl, the kid does, and says, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Lollipop, and the owl says 1, 2, 3, and crunches into it and says 3. I'm never able. A decade ago, I could. At the start of the broadcast, it's an old habit. I think it was a good habit. I would just read you at least 10 of the top stories we'd be covering. I never get 3 or 4 deep without just launching into the third or fourth one I get to. But we do have big World War III news, and I've never used that term on air. By never using the term, I mean I've never said that it's a serious possibility, and it is a serious possibility now, and I'm not the only analyst saying this. So we're going to be breaking that down at the bottom of the hour. That's the big report today, and I assure you that you're going to want to be joining us to hear that breakdown coming up. I will have open phones coming up in the second hour of the Sunday transmission. We're also simulcasting this radio show in full living multi-camera shoot color at prisonplanet.tv, an entire other dimension. That way I'm not just claiming I have a news article or a video clip or a congressman here in studio. I'm able to actually show it to you. Now, and that's really the future of radio, is the fusion with video, and that's why we've been doing it for more than a decade now. Okay, let me just go over some of the headlines here for you. Let me see. This is out of Forbes. It says, Texas state officials left sore from TSA pat-down. And by the way, that's in the TSA training. They actually grab your testicles and squeeze them to make sure they're real. I have watched them do this to Jesse Ventura. And he turned red and said, I'm leaving this country. It's East Germany. I can't handle it. I've actually watched them grab his genitals and squeeze them, okay? And I'm just, thank God it didn't happen to me, because I can't put up with it. Okay, see, I just failed. I just read one article and I couldn't shut up. I'm sorry. There's over 100 here, all just as evil, okay? And multiple of them, they were punished. They said, your Texas legislatures, get over here. We're going to squeeze your private parts. Sexual assault. Oh, boy. Total federal power grab outside the jurisdiction. So many facets. Oh, it keeps us safe from terrorism. Sure it does. Sacrifice America on the altar of the perseverating ninnying and fetishes over fear of terrorists that are all financed by the globalists. I'm sorry. Here's my correction. I have a correction to make. I heard, and I'm not even going to attack them, because I know it's how the disinfo works. I heard local talk radio last week announce Rick Perry had added it to the special session, something I said he wouldn't do, to bring the bill back up to ban TSA rape downs here in Texas. It's already against the law. I've had multiple district attorneys on from around the country. There's already laws in the books. A cop can't come up without a warrant and grab your genitals. An FBI agent can't. You can't. The dog catcher can't. A Keebler elf can't. Nobody can, but this new unbonded goon force who are now on the streets of America and high school proms. And looking at these reports here, I heard the report. I went and looked it up that morning, couldn't find it, but I just went with it. And I should learn not to trust mainstream media because they said Rick Perry had added it. Well, actually, I made some phone calls Friday and today, and discovered that, no, they're trying to shield Rick Perry. The Republican leadership is, because this is a big national hot-button issue, and he's getting ready to run for president. I know he promised you he wouldn't. That was the guarantee he would. I told you a year and a half ago he was, and just wait. Don't hold your breath for him not to run, because you're not going to be alive. He's running. You better believe it. But they said, yeah, he'd added it. No, technically, the leader of the House and leader of the Senate can re-add it. And they've now got way more than the sponsors. They need to pass it. They had a unanimous vote a month ago, 138-0 in the House, and they had a 131 to 1. Only had one abstaining vote in the Senate, and it got killed by Perry through his lieutenant governor. But Dewhurst got in so much trouble he quietly slipped it back in, but it's only a recommendation. So even if it passes the House and Senate, Perry, before the final vote, can kill it. And he has not re-entered it. And the Washington Times is saying editorial, Rick Perry versus the TSA, and they say, help us, you're our only hope. And it just goes on and on. Meanwhile, the Texas House members are being put on the rack, being literally tortured by TSA, and we've got a clip of that newscast coming up. So I'm going to cover that first when we come back from this break. Let me tell you about some of the other news here, and tell me if you hear the hypocrisy here. And it's multi-layered, because I happen to know the law in all 50 states, because I've had top constitutional lawyers on to break it down, and I've looked it up myself. It's not illegal to spank your children. But here's News 8 out of Corpus Christi, Texas. We're on a great AM station down there. This is out of CBS News 8. Judge has harsh words for mom before sentencing her for spanking her child. And it goes on, the child was not hurt, but it doesn't matter. And then she's on 5 years probation for it. Now, let me throw you for a loop here. Here's the Texas Tribune from a month ago. House says no to parental consent for spanking. That's right. They tried to pass a law that parents have to give consent before they can be paddled at public school by a large board. I have got plenty of purple bruises from it. By the way, probably one of the only reasons I'm still alive was that I was disciplined by my parents and by the public school. And they are independent school districts, I thought, and if that's what the school board wants, that's what you get. And they need to be paddled, and they need to be run, too, as well, during the lunch hour if they're misbehaving, or there'll be a bunch of wild animals. But don't worry, once they get out of school or get tasered and killed in prison, they'll learn about reality. But wait a minute. The school can paddle your child, but you can't. I mean, the school can leave you purple, but you can't. Well, there is no law in Texas against spanking your child. You can look up the codes. But see, there are plenty of judges that put people in jail for things that aren't illegal. And if you actually read deeper, this is not really the judge's ruling. They trick the woman into signing on to a plea bargain. That's how in Texas, and we exposed this now 11 years ago, the ASAP program, it was a federal grant. They were piloting it for all the state, where children, when they're late for school 3 times in a semester, were charged with truancy, and then parents were called in and the kids were put on probation, but it was a deferred adjudication, which puts you on probation for 6 months. Then when you make the next mistake, you're officially on it. And Judge Jean Muir was on the news screaming at them and having them sign documents. And anybody who knows real law and due process knew that that was a kangaroo fraud, that they were inducing through fraud and through ignorance the people to waive their rights. And that's how this was done. And then they parade these TV newscasts out there. The reporters are ignorant and dumb as a box of rocks. The parents are ignorant and don't know what's going on. And the people perish for lack of knowledge, as Christ said. Or who wants to listen to him, though? Oh, let me tell you, you got knowledge, folks. You're powerful. You got knowledge, you become wealthy. You know where to invest. You got knowledge, your family prospers. You don't have knowledge. Oh, I know you got knowledge about American Idol and Dancing with the Stars and 2.5 Men, and you got knowledge about your football team. You know all the plays. So don't tell me you couldn't learn about your liberties and your freedom. See, if you knew about your liberties and freedoms and history, you'd know how dangerous it is once governments start doing this and where it always leads. Total tyranny. And you'd also know that not only can the TSA not grab your genitals, they can't be operating in your state. It's a federal power grab. It's called the 10th and 9th Amendment. Why do we have states if it doesn't exist? You know, don't give me that argument the feds can do whatever they want. Why do we have states? For you ignoramuses out there that are new listeners and think I'm lying to you. We'll be right back. I'm on fire. Thanks for joining us as we defend the land of the free, home of the brave. Remember back when that wasn't a joke?